Next up, we have 13th place Mike Hardiman playing Air Toru2. Mike Hardiman is the 2012 and 2018 UK national champion. So, someone you know has a pedigree and has been in this game for a decade. Very awesome to see Mike back, and not surprised to see him at the HLC, but it was a little surprising to see him on the Toru2. You know, this is not something that we see a lot of people main board, not a lot of people build a deck around it, and I don't think I've seen very many play her on the air symbol. Mike did have 10th seed, so he was going first at least a little bit of day 2. Very, very interesting stuff, but we have 22 attacks, so let's get through it. Pillar Swing has a 1-of, just block, punishment, and stun. Very interesting. Cat Pounce lets you change out one of these mini 1-of attacks for a different attack. And it has a little bit of stun. Extendo Hair is another 1-of game finishing, game ender attacks. Fierce Whirlwind has a lot of that singular 1-of use energy where if you're not running Grenadier Bracers, maybe he just doesn't know the combo. Maybe he's not a fan of it. Very surprised to see this card without Grenadier Bracers somewhere in the deck. Air doesn't have a lot of ways to just pop a single foundation, but Feeling Cute went a long ways towards that, and it combos really well with Small Limber, so interesting there. Zero Gravity Lift makes a ton of sense for this character. She wants to grind and ride the game to a long conclusion, so not surprised to see that. 4-of Indiscriminate Shock, not surprised to see that. This is probably the main kill card, especially for this deck, but just on these symbols. One of the few decks that's putting a bunch of speed essentially on Indiscriminate Shock 1.3 million. God, it's such a long name. Anyways, Toru2 is one of the few decks putting speed on this attack, so very cool to see it as a 4-up, but that is a lot of 5 difficulty attacks, right? 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11, half of our attacks are 5 divs. Very interesting, especially since we're not on the full charge plan. We don't have double jab pummel, so 4-of Invisible Infiltration, excuse me. This is her signature attack, so not surprising to see 4 of it. This is what was missing from Zach Pasley's deck, so this is not a deck that is siding into Jiro like his was as well. Very interesting. I think Mike thought that after rounds 1, maybe after round 2, for the really, really important rounds, he'd be going second, because we also see 4 Ready, Get, Set, Go. So really, really interesting to see the thought process here. 2 Home Run Comet. It absolutely dunks people. 1 Signature Right Swing to get you out of those bad hands. And 4 Electric Jolt, because it is just pound for pound the best poke in the game. It shuts off all that interaction on later turns, so not surprised to see this here at all. Next up, we have the Foundations 1-of Rescue completed. Very, very interesting here, but 4 Cheerleader mainboarded. Love to see this. Absolutely love to see 4 Cheerleader mainboarded, not just because it's got the Hagakure first form. In fact, I don't know how often you'd really be using that at all. I guess, you know, if they're on the edge of giving you an extra bonus, you pop that button, go for the win, things like that. But yeah, this is God, such a strong defensive piece, and I wish it was better early on in the game, but because you got to get that momentum, this is like a turn 3 card for a lot of decks. 1 Confused, interesting little tech piece. 3 Wall Cling. We've seen the air decks be more willing to mainboard Wall Cling than the other symbols, but always in a non-Jiro deck, so a little interesting to see there. 1 Encouraging Training Partner, that's been very common. 4 Specialist of Sound has also been common. 3 Latent Skills, also the common number we see these cards at, so a lot of Hive Mind out there right now in the HLC. It's across multiple symbols, these cards at the same count. 1 Shock Treatment, this is something we haven't seen too many other people use, but I'm a big believer in this card, and I feel like I should be playing it more than maybe I was for a while. Yeah, just really strong, especially late game. Once you've got a bunch of momentum from stuff like Zero Gravity Lift, you know, Electric Jolt, stuff like that, it can be really crucial to get rid of those rival foundations. 2 feeling cute. This is our stay out of deadlock card. This is our, you know, extra bonus speed. This is a very, very simple card. Goes well with small and limber like we talked about. 1 of observant student. I'm wondering, we only have 1 or 2 ways to clear our card pool, right? So I don't think this is really for the deadlock threat. I think this is mostly just for like super early turns. You know, +1 low block. We got a +1 high block here, so interesting there. 4 Destined for Mainstream is the correct number. 4 Basic Training is the correct number. Re-release is really nice. It's very funny to me that this character can play release, because I feel like release, you know, soft counters her a lot of the time. So very, very funny to see that. And then 4 Requesting Assistance, because we obviously want to be playing with momentum. So yeah, 22 attacks out of 66 cards. That's a really, really normal thing to see right now. It's 22 attacks is probably what the majority of decks signed up. It's been the majority of, you know, decks that I've seen so far have had 22 attacks, and they're usually about a third of the deck. There might be a little more than a third, might be a little bit less, but 22 out of 65, 66. That's what we've been seeing pretty much the whole time. So very interesting to see this character. Nice to see her with her actual, you know, signature attack here. So very, very cool stuff from Mike. You know, this looks like a very slow deck. Very interesting again to see like the ready get set go in the main board for going first instead of the seizing. I gotta just assume he was prepared for later rounds to go second, right? Like he knew he wasn't gonna go first like the whole time. With guys like Kevin Broberg, Barrett Bryant, Keenan Meadows, who's the rest of the top 5? Dobby guy made top 4. Brandon Jones was 5th seed. You know, these are all players who you're expecting to, you know, maintain their spot over you. These are all players that I would expect to be seeing staying at the top tables. So probably prepared to go second after the early rounds. Great character for it. Great, you know, symbol deck for it. But other than that, we just don't have much string power, right? I think what I'd like to see from this deck in the future is maybe deck a little more. I guess we have a lot of foundation rating. I don't know. I don't really know too much about this character. Every time I fought it, it's pretty much been on the good symbol. Pretty much always been out of a sideboard. So very excited to see people mainboarding it and like making the deck based around this character. I don't know what we do. Maybe I'd like to see maybe even a Tentacle Strike. Tentacle Strike, you know, when you do your response and you bounce that attack out of their card pool, if you blocked with a +1 mid Tentacle Strike, you can remove it from the game. The target commit a rival foundation. It's not a very exciting attack though, so I guess I can understand why you wouldn't run it. Certainly not something I've tested, but all in all, looks like a very, very solid deck. You know, you can do a lot of great things with Invisible Infiltration and like Small and Limber. You know, this is a deck that I think a lot of people were worried about early on, and they kind of got their practice in against it. And because the format doesn't favor defensive mid-rangey decks, you know, because people were, you know, able to stay out of deadlock, right? And you can kind of choose when and where to go out of it. That's probably why we didn't see Mike Hardiman go too far in this tournament. But you know, Mike Hardiman's gonna be back. He is a staple of the UK community. He is one of the most decorated UK players, and I would not be surprised to see Mike Hardiman at future Hero League Championships. Congratulations on 13th place, Mike. And I hope to see more dog art in the future. Let's get more bets on character cards. Let's get character cards back. I'm still waiting to play a standard legal Ashley Fullerton character. Make it happen, Jasco.